Hey everyone, I'm counting down 15 of the most astounding stories of luck where people have miraculously defied the odds. These are the luckiest people in the world. Let's start with number 15, Joan R. Ginther. So we've all dreamt of winning the lottery, and while winning just once seems out of reach, just imagine how it would feel to win several times. That's exactly what happened to Joan Ginther, who's quite possibly the luckiest woman in the world. A Texas native with a PhD in statistics from Stanford University, she miraculously won the lottery 4 times between 1993 and 2010, accumulating a total of over $20 million in winnings. Ginther's first win came in 1993 when she secured a $5.4 million jackpot in the Texas lottery. She didn't stop there though. In 2006, she won $2 million from a scratch-off ticket, followed by a $3 million win just 2 years later in 2008. Her most significant victory came in 2010. The Texas Lottery Commission has consistently affirmed that her wins were legitimate and no foul play was involved. Number 14, Michael Holmes. Extreme sports are enjoyed by millions of people around the world, not just because of the adrenaline rush of the high speeds or enormous heights, but because there's always an element of danger involved. Michael Holmes fully well knew this as a professional skydiver from New Zealand, but things would take an unbelievable turn for him in 2006. On December 12th, he went out for what was supposed to be a routine skydive over Lake Taupo in New Zealand. An experienced skydiver with over 7,000 jumps to his name, Holmes knew all the safety protocols and procedures of the sport. However, as he plummeted towards the Earth at speeds reaching 120 miles or 193 kilometers an hour, he experienced a catastrophic malfunction. Not only did his main parachute fail to open, but his reserve chute also failed, leaving him in a free fall from 15,000 feet, or about 4,500 minor injuries, with just a punctured lung and a broken ankle. Things that are serious enough on their own, but after what had happened, his doctors couldn't believe it. As for how he survived, it's likely down to a number of factors, such as his experience as a skydiver that allowed him to keep calm, his body position as he fell and landed, and the fortunate landing spot of the blackberry bush. Number 13, Kevin Hillier. For centuries, people have rushed to places where gold has been found in the hope of finding their fortune, but few are truly successful. In 1980, though, Kevin Hillier, an Australian from Victoria, was added to the list of lucky people as he discovered one of the largest gold nuggets ever found. He had recently taken up prospecting as a hobby, with a fascination of gold and the chance of striking it rich. On September 26th, he and his family were out searching in an area that had been worked over many times before. The region, part of the Golden Triangle in Victoria, was historically known for its gold deposits. He and his family. It was later sold to the Golden Nugget Casino in Las Vegas, where it remains on display to this day, attracting tourists and gold enthusiasts from around the world. Unsurprisingly, after this find, countless metal detectors were sold in Australia, and people started searching all over the country in the hopes that they'd find their own hand-shaped gold nugget. So far, no one has been anywhere near as successful. But you never know. If it happened before, it could always happen again. Number 12, Frayne Selak. There are various things that people put down to luck, from narrowly escaping danger to winning huge prizes, and most people won't even experience one of these things in their lives. Frayne Selak, though, had more than his fair share of luck in an extraordinary life after being born in Croatia in 1929. It was in 1962 that things really began when he was traveling by train from Sarajevo to Dubrovnik. The train derailed and plunged into an icy river, but somehow Selak managed, when his car caught fire as he was driving, he managed to jump out just before the fuel tank exploded. In 1973, his car caught fire again due to a malfunctioning fuel pump. This time, the flames were even closer to him, singeing his hair, but he escaped unharmed. In 1995, he survived being hit by a city bus in Zagreb, sustaining only minor injuries. And just a year later, he avoided a head-on collision with a United Nations truck by swerving into a guardrail, which gave way, leading him to hanging precariously over a 300-foot drop. He managed to jump out of the car just before it plummeted down the cliff. And in 2003, at the age of 73, things took another twist as Selak experienced a stroke of luck of a different kind when he won a lottery jackpot of over $1 million. This unexpected financial windfall allowed him to live comfortably in his later years and brought an end to his brushes with danger. Number 11. Ludger Silbaris. when he'd be released, but this would turn out to be the luckiest place he could have been. It just so happened that on the following morning, May the 8th, Mount Pelee erupted violently, sending a pyroclastic flow of deadly, fast-moving hot gas and volcanic matter down its slopes. Silbaris's cell, though, became an unexpected sanctuary, as its thick stone walls and underground position insulated him from the searing heat and toxic gases. Despite the intense heat that burned his skin and the suffocating conditions, Silbaris survived the initial onslaught, and for 4 days he remained trapped in his cell, enduring unbearable thirst and injuries until rescuers found him. News of his miraculous survival spread rapidly, making him a global sensation. He was later pardoned for his crimes due to his extraordinary experience and became a part of Barnum and Bailey's circus in the United States, where he recounted his harrowing tale as the man who lived through doomsday. Number 10. Michael Sparks. Some people believe a copy of the Declaration of Independence, arguably the most famous and important document in American history. At first glance, it seemed like a common reproduction, the kind often found in gift shops or as a decoration in American-themed settings. But there was something about this particular print that caught Sparks' attention. Even being for sale in a low-key setting and with a price of just $2.48, he decided to buy it. When he got home, he took a closer look at it and saw something strange about the quality of the paper and the detail in the printing. Wanting to look into its authenticity, he began researching it, consulting experts and using online resources to figure out what it was. To his absolute amazement, he eventually discovered that his thrift store find was actually an official copy that had been commissioned by John Quincy Adams in 1820. Known as the Dunlap Broadside, this version of the Declaration of Independence was part of a limited printing that was done in order to preserve the original text. Realizing the potential historical end of it, you yourself can be one of the lucky ones. Number 9. Roy Sullivan. They say lightning never strikes twice, and while the intent behind the phrase is usually true, it doesn't mean it's actually impossible. And for Roy Sullivan, lightning became quite the feature in his life. You may call it unlucky, of course, but the fact that he survived to an old age is quite remarkable. As an American park ranger in Virginia's Shenandoah National Park, he obviously spent a lot of time outdoors, and this is what ultimately led to him being known as the human lightning rod. The first event took place in 1942 while he was working as a lookout in a fire tower. A bolt struck the tower, traveling down and igniting flames around him. He suffered burns but survived, and probably thought that would be the only close shave he'd have. 27 years later, though, in 1969, he was driving his truck through the park. A lightning bolt hit 2 trees before deflecting through his open window. 73, he was struck for a 5th time while on patrol, leading to burns on his legs. And by now, even his colleagues began seeing him as a lightning magnet, often avoiding him during storms. His 6th strike came in 1976 when Sullivan was checking a campsite. This bolt caused serious ankle injuries and was the first one that required a visit to the hospital. And then the following year, his final lightning encounter happened in 1977 while fishing. The bolt struck him, causing chest and stomach burns, but he managed to survive once again. Perhaps seeming like a fantastic story, Sullivan's experience was verified by the Guinness World Records, making him the record holder for the most lightning strikes survived by an individual. The odds of being struck by lightning once in a lifetime are estimated at about 1 in 15,000, so this was something else. Quite why he was so prone isn't entirely clear. Of course, working outdoors will increase your chances, but there have been suggestions at Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore, Maryland. Their research focused on coal tar derivatives, an area with little apparent connection to food science. One evening, after a long day in the lab, Fahlberg went home for dinner without washing his hands thoroughly. As he began to eat, he noticed an unusual sweet taste on his bread. He quickly realized the sweetness was coming from his fingers, which had been in contact with various chemicals throughout the day. Intrigued by this unexpected taste, Fahlberg rushed back to the lab to identify the source. He went on to taste every compound he had been working with and discovered that the sweetness came from benzoic sulfamide, which we now know as saccharin. This was a groundbreaking discovery, as it revealed a substance that was hundreds of times sweeter than sugar, but contained no calories. Recognizing the potential of this, Fahlberg patented the substance in 1884, effectively claiming ownership of the discovery. This move was controversial, as it sidelined Ira Remsen, his sugar shortages, and for individuals with diabetes. By the early 20th century, saccharin was widely used in processed foods, beverages, and pharmaceuticals across the world. The success of saccharin made Fahlberg wealthy and cemented his place in history. He established the Fahlberg List Chemical Company in Germany to produce saccharin on an industrial scale. And despite early opposition from some health experts and controversies regarding its safety, saccharin remained a popular artificial sweetener. Moving on to number 7, Yorgos Kentrotas. Yorgos Kentrotas, who's described as being a Greek peasant, didn't really have many hopes or aspirations in life, but he would go on to make a discovery by complete accident that would align his name with one of the most celebrated artworks in the world. It all happened on the island of Milos in the Aegean Sea, where Yorgos lived a humble life as a farmer. One day in April of 1820, while he was digging in his field near ancient ruins, he uncovered several large broken pieces of marble, and Foutier quickly alerted his superior, who arranged for the statue to be transported to France. The statue, now known as the Venus de Milo, was eventually presented to King Louis XVIII, who donated it to the Louvre Museum in Paris. This exquisite work of art, believed to depict the Greek goddess Aphrodite, quickly became one of the museum's most prized possessions. Carved from marble and dating back more than 2,000 years, the statue is known for its classical beauty and mysterious aura, particularly because its arms were never found, leaving scholars and art enthusiasts to speculate on their original pose. It's a discovery that had a huge impact in the world of art. The Venus de Milo is considered a masterpiece of ancient Greek sculpture, embodying the elegance and refinement of the Hellenistic artistic style, with the mystery surrounding its origins and missing pieces only adding to its appeal. For Kentrotas, it brought a moment of recognition. While he didn't gain lasting fame or fortune from his discovery, his name remained back home. Despite financial challenges, he remained hopeful and regularly participated in the Dubai duty-free lottery, a popular sweepstake that attracts participants from around the world. In August 2015, Kada found himself aboard Emirates flight EK521, returning to Dubai from a trip to India. During landing at Dubai International Airport, the aircraft encountered difficulties and crash-landed on the runway. The plane was engulfed in flames and passengers had to evacuate quickly. Amazingly, all 300 passengers and crew survived the event, and Kada emerged unscathed, seeing his survival as sheer luck and divine intervention. It seems, though, that he still had a dose of luck left over, because that was just the beginning of his life-changing week. Just days after that incident, he received a call to tell him he had won $1 million in the Dubai duty-free Millennium Millionaire Lottery. This incredible news came to him as he was still processing the traumatic events of the crash, and at 62 years, Adolphe Sax was born on November 6, 1814 in Belgium, and it's a name that's still known to this day, as he was the inventor of the saxophone. He was, of course, a musical genius, but there was far more to him than that, not least the fact his life was a tale of incredible luck and close shaves. He was born into a family of instrument makers, and his father, Charles Joseph Sax, ran a successful instrument workshop. As a toddler, he fell from a height of 3 stories and hit his head on a stone surface, amazingly, surviving with only a minor concussion. Shortly after, he accidentally swallowed a pin and stopped breathing for quite some time before it could be removed. At age 3, he drank a bowl of poisonous water that his mother had mistaken for milk and would later fall into a river before being saved by a passerby just as he was running out of energy to keep afloat. Later on, he would sustain severe burns when a gunpowder explosion blew up in his face, and he was also seriously poisoned after inhaling toxic fumes from varnished. Attempts to discredit him were pretty common. Competitors launched smear campaigns, questioned the legitimacy of his patents, and even attempted to sabotage his instruments. Nevertheless, Sax's resilience and the distinctive quality of his instruments eventually won over many prominent composers and musicians, including Hector Berlioz, who became one of his staunchest supporters. In addition to his professional adversities, Sax faced significant financial difficulties. He declared bankruptcy several times due to ongoing legal battles over his patents. Yet luck favored him again when in 1858, Emperor Napoleon III of France recognized the value of Sax's contributions to music and granted him a substantial loan. His perseverance paid off when his instruments were officially adopted by the French military bands, securing a steady demand and validating his innovations. Despite recurring health issues later in life, including cancer, which he miraculously survived thanks to an innovative treatment, he was able to continue working on improving his instruments. Runner and former Olympic panathlete from Italy entered the race with high hopes. This is often described as the toughest foot race on Earth. It covers a distance of over 155 miles or 250 kilometers through one of the world's most inhospitable environments. Participants must carry all the supplies they need and face the extreme temperatures and challenging terrain. On the fourth day of the race that year, a fierce sandstorm hit, reducing visibility to almost zero. Prosperi lost his bearings and veered off course. Disoriented and alone, he faced a daunting reality of surviving in the vast desert with limited supplies. His luck began to take a strange turn. With his water supply running out, he was forced to resort to desperate measures to stay alive. He drank his own urine and attempted to extract moisture from bat droppings found in the abandoned shrine. To conserve energy and shield himself from the sun, he traveled mostly at night and sought shade during the day. Despite his efforts, the relentless conditions took us. Supervisors were astonished by his survival too, and his story soon became the focus of that year's event. This ordeal didn't deter him from running. Once he had recovered, he returned to the marathon disable in subsequent years, determined to complete the race that nearly beat him. Number 3. Bill Morgan. Bill Morgan, who was an Australian truck driver, experienced a series of events in the late 1990s that showed just how much good fortune can change your life forever. In 1998, things took a frightening turn when he was in a truck accident, which triggered a heart attack. It was severe enough that he ended up in hospital, but amazingly, after 12 days in a coma, Morgan woke up with no significant damage, something that's quite rare considering there was a time he was without oxygen. After this miraculous recovery, Morgan decided to make some changes in his life, feeling that he had been given a second chance. To celebrate his survival, he bought a scratch-off lottery ticket. Incredibly, the ticket turned out to be a winner, earning him a brand new car and earning him the reputation of being exceptionally lucky. The probability of winning significant prizes in the lottery is extremely low, and for Morgan to win twice, especially under such circumstances, defied all the odds. He was able to use his winnings to improve his life, buying a home and securing financial stability. His experience now serves as a reminder that your life can change dramatically, often when least expected, and to never give up. Number 2. Betty Lou Oliver. Betty Lou Oliver found herself in an important event in the history of New York, and miraculously survived to tell the tale. She was an elevator operator at the Empire State Building, and on July 28, 1945, had begun work early. That morning, a thick fog had covered the city, severely reducing visibility. Lieutenant Colonel William Franklin Smith Jr. was piloting a B-25 Mitchell bomber, navigating through the treacherous weather, and because of poor visibility, he mistakenly had been compromised by the crash. As the elevator car carrying Oliver began to move, the cables snapped, sending her plummeting 75 stories down the shaft. Miraculously, Oliver survived the fall, setting a record for the longest survived elevator fall in history. The elevator cables had piled up at the bottom of the shaft, cushioning the elevator's impact and saving her life. Furthermore, the rapid descent created a cushioning effect due to the compressed air below the elevator, further softening the impact. Her survival was nothing short of miraculous. She sustained injuries such as broken bones, but after a long recovery, she was able to return to her hometown in Arkansas, where she lived a relatively private life. Despite the trauma of her experience, she showed remarkable strength and resilience, and her story remains an example of human endurance and the role of luck in surviving against all odds. Number 1. Chris Duddy and Michael Benson. When we watch movies, we rarely think of how treachery to provide viewers with breathtaking and rare footage. Nearing the end of the multi-day shoot, Duddy, Benson, and their pilot took off in a helicopter to film the volcano's fiery, molten landscape. This operation was inherently risky, given the unpredictable nature of the eruptions and treacherous terrain, and the helicopter flew low over the volcano's crater, navigating through plumes of smoke and ash to get the perfect shot. Without warning, there was a mechanical failure. The situation rapidly deteriorated as the aircraft lost altitude and control, plunging toward the volcano. The helicopter crashed into the floor of the Pu'u'o'u vent, a site of boiling lava, toxic gases, and unstable ground. But amazingly, despite the catastrophic nature of the crash, all 3 men survived. Rescue crews were quick to the scene and recovered the pilot, but Duddy and Benson, who were further into the volcano, weren't so easy to reach. Now, in one of the most inhospitable environments on Earth, surrounded by scorching heat and noxious fumes, they had been stranded within reaching point of the rim for another night. With the constant threat of the volcanic activity increasing, he had no idea if he would survive. But things would take a fortuitous turn. The volcano actually calmed for a moment, which meant that a rescue helicopter above was able to see his exact position. They were able to lower a harness to rescue him and take him to the local hospital. If, however, you've seen the movie Sliver and wondered which shots had been captured by the team, you'll be out of luck, because after all their effort, the footage they captured was ultimately cut from the final edit. Thanks for watching, everyone. I'll see you next time.